Thank you for the question. Well, first of all, we think access to post-secondary education is fundamental for the success of Canada. We need an educated workforce. We need students to have no barriers in place for having a post-secondary education. All the financial barriers should not be obstacles. So to that end, the Green Party supports federal transfers to provincial governments for the purpose of post-secondary education. They believe in eliminating any taxes on textbooks and supplies that students need. They believe in reduced interest rates for loans with increased repayment periods. They also believe in forgiving certain student loans based on the chosen profession and those graduates going on to communities where they're needed. Those would be instances in which we would forgive student loans. So it's, I think it's about making it affordable first and foremost.
Well, this is an issue that's very near and dear to my heart. I think that education is a pathway out of poverty, as are many of the NDP's initiatives. As I alluded to earlier, when I was 40, I went back to college and I took computer programming, and it was a real struggle. I came out of it with a huge debt. My credit rating was ruined. It was very, very difficult. And if I hadn't been living in poverty before that, which I had, it got even worse while I was going to school. My oldest son is a medical doctor, and the challenges that he faced to go to medical school because of lack of money were unbelievable. And I think that this is wrong, because I think that kids, adults from all backgrounds, from all levels, should have access to education. It shouldn't be, there are intelligent kids with no money that need access to medical school, law school, anything that they choose. So I think that we need to establish a federal transfer program that will give funds that are every year that the universities don't have to go begging for. I think we need to lower tuition, and the NDP has worked with teachers and with students to do that. We need a system of needs-based grants as well as lower interest rates on loans. Again, I can't stress enough that we have to have access to education for all of the population.
Thank you, Ms. Nancy Patchell. Let's welcome Mr. Jim Karvgiannis.
Thank you for the question. As a father of 5 daughters that each one of them has put themselves through schools, and the last one is still in university, I know the cost that the young ones have to bear in order to go through school. However, the government of Canada has to step in, not only at university, but it also has to step in the first steps. One of the things that we would like to do is to make sure that we have an early childhood learning and care fund to create child care spaces across Canada, which means no child is left behind. That was in place in 2005 when the Liberals were given government. We have it in place. The Conservatives came in. They gutted it. One of the other things that we want to do is called the Canadian Learning Passport. We're making $1 billion investment in post-secondary education. A Liberal government will assist eligible students seeking a college or university degree by giving them $4,000 over the course of their undergraduate studies. For students from low-income families, up to $6,000. We cannot let this be an obstacle for students to get ahead. The government must be there to help them, and if you get the grades, you get to go. A Liberal government would implement this immediately with a transition period for students that are currently studying. We have to act now. There's no two ways about it. You got to look after the little ones, and you got to make sure that as they're growing along, the government is there. Although education is a provincial responsibility, we got to make sure that we're giving the parents enough money to be able to look after child care during where the kids are going to school. There's enough money for them to be able to get it, and when they go to university, we're there.
Thank you, Mr. Karvgiannis. Do you have any follow-up questions, or we'll just head into the 5-minute debate time?
So I'm curious, what students are considered eligible for the $4,000?
Every student?
Every student? You see, it's that kind of waste that I think is responsible for the debt that we accrue in the government, because I don't think all students need that $4,000. I think there are students that come from affluent families who shouldn't just be handed $4,000. I think the money needs to go where it's needed.
That's just like we don't need to have universal health care. if you can afford it and you can be in the front of the line, you're saying that you can pay in order to get your health care. That's exactly what you're saying. Universality means that regardless what the father or the mother have, or regardless of what they do, every student should be eligible in order to have the same thing. This is guaranteed our Charter of Rights and Freedoms. So if you want to segregate and separate, you're saying that, well, it's like health care. It's not the health card. It's the credit card.
So do you think Bill Gates' son needs $4,000 to go to university?
Bill Gates does not live in Canada.
I know he doesn't, but as an example of somebody who is super wealthy, and we have many, many wealthy people in Canada with students going to university, and I don't know that that they need.
This is a health card. This is a credit card. You should not have to use this to
I'm
get
not
in front
talking
of the
about
line.
health care. I know you would like to be talking. No, it is not the same thing.
It's not at all, actually, Jim. The point is that I think that the Liberal and the Conservative governments have done enough handing money to wealthy people, to corporations. And the point here is that people without money don't have access to education. This needs to be needs-based, and we need to make sure that everybody has access. Wealthy people have access now. We need to make sure that everybody has access.
So Canadians that are in different stratosphere, they should be treated differently. Is this what you're advocating?
Well, I think...
Please clarify.
Oh, well, I'd be happy to. I think that there are many situations where things are different. People get taxed at different rates. People receive child care benefits at different rates, or child tax benefits at different rates, depending on income. It has nothing to do with the Charter. As I'm sure you know, that we would hand $4,000 to every student. So let's not get off track. The point is we want to make sure that people
I have a simple question for you. Should Canadians be treated differently, yes or no?
I think that...
Yes or no, simple.
Oh, Jim, if you would like me to answer, I'd be happy to. I think that everybody should have access to education. I don't think that people should be
treated equally.
I think that people... Are you interested in talking about education, Jim? Because I am. I'm interested in the kids that can't go to medical school, law school, community college, because they don't have the money. That's what I'm interested in.
I would rather see them receive even more money than $4,000 than to just do free giveaways to affluent kids who can afford to go to school and whose parents have saved up for them to do so.
I'm not sure if you heard me, and I said the following. For students from low-income families, up to $6,000 will be available to pay for their education.
Up to $6,000 for low income, but $4,000 for all students. And you know what? You have to be more efficient in the spending of money. You really do. The time has come. Look at the crisis we're just coming out of. It's got to be a more efficiently run
I'd like to make the point that talk is cheap, promises are cheap, and actions speak louder than words. Your government has been in power many, many times, and the education system is in the state it's in now.
Sir, education is provincial.
Sorry,
We're
can
federal.
I have a follow-up question from the panelists?
Yeah,
oh, sure.
To me, whoever paid tax is entitled to the payment of the loans or whatever. And the only thing is I'm a little bit concerned that I think it's more for the Green Party, is that if we are having preferred professions for giving loans, probably philosophy students might not be getting loans at all. So would that be a kind of sometimes unintentional bias towards some students?
Well, we need to address the needs of society. There are rural communities without family doctors, and we need to incent people to go to those communities and work there. And, this is not an uncommon thing to do. It's important that that people be encouraged to act and behave in a way that's actually helpful to the planet and not contributing to its demise. So people who go into professions that are going to actually help ensure a sustainable future.
I'm going to disagree with that, and I think
that... This would not be a universal education system.
But Peter,
I think that everybody should be able to choose their field of study.
For doctors and nurses that are not going to be practicing in Toronto but are needed in the far north, are needed in places where there's no doctors, that their loans would be written off.
There's a fundamental flaw in that plan.
No, there's no fundamental flaw in that plan.
Is.
This is where doctors are needed. Have you ever gone into communities where you do not have any doctors? And those doctors are needed. And if we can help the doctors by saying to them,
my son worked as a doctor in Iqaluit. I'm well aware of what we need in the north.
So you go into the north and work.
But we need to do it properly so that we can get people.
And it's going to be done properly.
Well, not with your plan, it's not.
Well, I hate to disagree with you.
No, you don't.
Really, I hate to disagree with you. But you know what? The Liberal Party has governed this country for a number of years, and this is why this country is the best country in the world, and that's where we are.
This is the end of our debate, and so we'll come back later after a short break, and we'll come back for the third round.